well. As we get into the new year, I set some reading goals for myself. Set my overall Goodreads goal, which is 50 books. Besides just reading 50 books, I wanted to tackle some genres that I usually shy away from. One of those being classics. In high school, I read classics. I was required to, but I only read the ones I was required to. Freshman year of college, reading kind of took a back seat. So when I did read, it was stuff that I really enjoyed and found really fun. This year, I've made reading more of a priority. I've definitely learned how to balance my schedule of college and reading. So I wanted to set some goals for myself to read genres that I didn't normally read. This video is going to be talking about the 10 classic books that I hope to read this year. Now, I'm not making this an end-all be-all video. If I don't read these 10 books this year, hey, that's okay, but I wanted to film this to keep myself accountable so that I definitely continue to read classics. So these are just 10 books, and maybe I'll get to them this year, maybe I'll get to them next year, but hopefully I will read all of these in my lifetime. Without further ado, let's get started with the first one. The first book that I want to read this year is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I was debating whether or not to talk about what each book is about, but I'm hoping that you guys know what these books are about. Just in case, I'll give some overall themes. I know that The Great Gatsby takes place in the 20s, and there's parties and splendor and love and maybe some like tragedy in there. Hopefully by the time that I post this video, I will have actually completed The Great Gatsby. I am listening to it now on audiobook, and Jake Gyllenhaal is actually reading it to me. Sorry, Taylor Swift. But I am obsessed. His voice, it's perfect for reading. I've been listening to it while I've been cleaning and as I've been organizing for the new semester. So I've really been enjoying The Great Gatsby. It's definitely a lot darker than I expected it to be. I thought it was literally about a guy that throws lots of parties, and I knew that there was some romance in there. It's definitely got a little darker side than what I thought, but I really like the way that it's told and narrated and written. So I am really enjoying it. It's a really beautiful story. Another classic book that I would like to read this year is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. So back in middle school, we had these weird things called teams. Basically, each grade was split up in half, and if you were on team, they were named after horses. If you were on team Secretariat, you only had these group of teachers. And if you were on team Seattle Slew, you only had these teachers. I was on one team and a lot of my friends were on the other. My English teacher on our team taught The Giver. The other English teacher taught Fahrenheit 451. Because of that, I never had to read Fahrenheit 451. I read The Giver, which I really enjoyed, but I would like to read Fahrenheit 451 because I know that a lot of my friends really enjoyed this book in middle school and I still haven't picked it up. All I know about this book is that I'm pretty sure they like burn books in it. Sounds intriguing enough. I don't really know a lot about it. I just know that my friends had a really great experience reading it and that it's a really cool book. I also have seen it on a lot of lists of banned books, so that must mean it's good. So I'm hopefully gonna get to that book this year as well. Another book that I'm hoping to read is Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. I have seen bits and pieces of the Breakfast at Tiffany's movie. I think everybody has, or at least everybody's seen the picture of Audrey Hepburn dressed like Holly Golightly. From what I've seen of the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's, I really like it. I really want to read Breakfast at Tiffany's before I go and watch the movie in its entirety. I really want to watch the movie because I've only seen bits and pieces, but I want to finish the book first. I'm hoping to read this book on audiobook because I know that Audible has a version where Michael C. Hall is narrating it. That just sounds absolutely iconic. I've been finding that Audible has a lot of classic novels narrated by celebrities, so that is amazing and that's gonna make me want to read them even more. What I know about Breakfast at Tiffany's is it takes place in New York City. It's a guy narrating a story about a really interesting girl who draws a lot of attention named Holly Golightly. Speaking of book to movie adaptations, which I'm pretty sure most of these on this list have been made into a movie, but a really popular one that came out last year is actually 2 years ago now, is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is really shameful on my part. I have never finished this book. It's because it's so long and I'm scared of long books and I need to work on that, and that's why it's on my list this year because I really want to finish this. The 2019 Little Women movie just broke my soul into a million pieces. It was so good. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. I watch clips from it all the time in my free time. Currently, I am obsessed with the YouTube video where someone edited Joe and Lori clips to Champagne Problems by Taylor Swift. a masterpiece. I am obsessed with it. I watch it once a week at least. I'm convinced that Taylor watched that Little Women 2019 and wrote Champagne Problems. Recently, Little Women has just really been on my mind, and it's a huge book, but it's a beautiful book and it's a beautiful story, and I want to read it this year. I will probably not get to this book during the school semester because it is crazy long. Maybe I will, we'll see. But I know that it's gonna take me a while if I can't like dedicate hours a day to just reading. I will probably pick this book up right after the semester ends, maybe in the summer or something. That way I can just literally devote nothing but time to this book and this wonderful story. We shall see, but mark my words, I will read this book before I die, hopefully by the end of 2021, but I do not know what future Elayne is up to, so. Another book that I really want to read is Dracula by Bram Stoker. Interesting, I don't really read books like this, but in high school for AP Lit, I was required to read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, and I absolutely loved that. I didn't think I would. And my dad has told me that if I liked Frankenstein, I would like Dracula. He loves Dracula, the original book. He thinks it's really good. I love vampire stories, but I usually like vampire romance stories like The Vampire Diaries and Twilight. So Dracula's definitely gonna be a step in a different direction from those ones, but I do really want to read that book this year. I think it would be perfect to read during the fall, maybe in October, as it's got some spooky vibes. So maybe I'll pick this book up in the fall, and it would be a really cool reading experience, maybe to get me in the Halloween mood. So speaking of AP Lit, we were also required to read 1984 by George Orwell, which I'm really glad that we were because I love George Orwell books. But the way that my AP Lit teacher ran her class was that every other year she would switch between teaching Brave New World and 1984. So because I was in her class the year that she taught 1984, I have never read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. So this year, I would like to read Brave New World. I really enjoyed 1984, and since she swaps back and forth, I'm assuming that they're parallels. I think that Brave New World is like the opposite of 1984, as where 1984 is, you know, no sex, no drugs, complete control. I think Brave New World is like the opposite. I am really intrigued to check it out. And then, also speaking of AP Lit, we had to read Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton, which was probably my favorite book that we read in AP Lit. I don't really know why. It's like kind of morbid, and it's a really short book, and it's really cold and wintry and just kind of all around depressing. But for some reason I fell in love with it. I think it was just the writing and the observations on life and love, and I don't know, man, I just really enjoyed Ethan Frome. So because of that, I would really like to read The Age of Innocence, also by Edith Wharton. I do not know much about this book, but I know that it talks about New York and its golden age, and it deals with love, romance, scandal. I really am a big fan of her writing style. She kind of makes remarks on society, and she came from wealth. She kind of makes criticisms on wealth and, you know, like upper middle class society. And I just really like the way that she depicts relationships, particularly in Ethan Frome. She was just great at describing the marital relationship, but also, you know, what might lead people astray, and just writing about scandal, but also romance and love and like real life and emotion. She just did that in such a beautiful way. I think she's a great writer. And so because of that, I would really like to read The Age of Innocence. I also know that this won the Pulitzer Prize in like 1921, if I'm not mistaken. I just looked it up, so that should be the correct year. The next two books are children's novels. And the first one is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, and the other one is Matilda by Roald Dahl. I think I might have read these books with my parents as a child, but I can't quite remember. I know we had them on the shelf, like those Penguin editions. They're both books that I would really like to pick up this year. They're both really great stories. Also, I tried to make my list of classics that I wanted to read this year different, as in ranging from, you know, different genres or different lengths and age ranges. So I tried to have some thrillers in there, but also some dystopian novels and ones that take place in the past past. So I thought that it would be nice to add 2 children's books so that I could diversify my reading and make sure that I'm switching it up and not constantly reading giant books like Little Women. So Matilda and Alice's Adventures in Wonderland will be great breaks for me to kind of breeze through a cute story that will kind of make me reminisce and feel nostalgia. And the last book on this list is literally anything by Jane Austen. I have these beautiful books on my shelf. I will get them. Here's 3 of them, and here's 4 more. So I have these 7 Jane Austen books that are absolutely beautiful. Do you see how beautiful they are? And I've only read, I think, Pride and Prejudice. I might have read Sense and Sensibility a while ago, but I don't think I did. I think I've pretty much only read Pride and Prejudice. This year, I want to fix that. I want to read at least one of these books. I'm not quite sure which one yet, so if you have a recommendation, definitely let me know which one is your favorite. But I'm going to be doing some research and seeing which one is the best to jump in and start with. I think I might read Emma because there's lots of movies about Emma. The last classic that I would like to read this year is Just Something by Jane Austen, because literally look how beautiful these are, and it is a dang shame that I have not read one yet. So yeah, those are the 10 classics that I would like to read this year. If I don't get to them, that's fine, but if I do, that is fantastic. Like I said earlier, hopefully by the time I upload this video, I will have already read The Great Gatsby and jumped into another classic on audiobook. Let me know what are some reading goals that you have for 2021. Is there a specific genre that you are trying to jump into? And if you have another recommendation of a classic book that I should read, definitely let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I am here for you, and I hope that you are having a wonderful day, and Happy New Year, guys!